So what about the cost issue, terribly important at this time of very difficult finances in the public sector? Well, the government now are talking about a transition to 41 commissioners on a salary of 122,000. Well, I think that'll excite the public. And the basic suggestion is that the cost of all this, setting up directly elected commissioners, will cost about £137 million more. Well, at a time the government is asking everyone to tighten their belts and cut back, it just does seem to be going absolutely in the wrong way. Elections alone are estimated to cost them £50 to £60 million. And in my part of the world, in Devon and Cornwall, we've asked the local returning officers, and they say it'll cost £1.9 million. Hey presto, the actual police authority only costs £1.5 million to run. So already elections alone will cost more than the existing governance system. And I'm pretty sure I know, Chairman, what the public in my part of the world, and I'm sure the public in everywhere else in England and Wales want. They want police officers they can see. They want to feel safe. They want to know the police service will deal with the issues when they rise. Frankly, a directly elected commissioner, another election in 2012, I don't think turnout is going to be very high at all. And I think for that reason, we could end up getting some very perverse results, which chief police officers will actually find some of these individuals very, very difficult to deal with. I hope I'm wrong, but I've seen too many elections when low turnout produces such strange results. As I said earlier, the present system's not 100% perfect, understand that. But given all the pressures facing the police service now, the Olympics have been mentioned, very clear pressure, the protests resulting from public sector cuts, huge reduction in police numbers simply because of the deficit reduction programme, I think the police service and police governments have got more than enough to cope with. So it's really not the right time for this policy change to be brought forward. I don't think it's the right policy anyway, but it's certainly not the right time to be bringing it forward. And in attempting to provide some evidence, at the end of the day, have the existing police government arrangements, have the police service really failed? Well, I think thanks to the investment we have been getting over the last decade, and I'll pay tribute to the previous government for that, the number of offences have actually routinely fallen. And I think it's now, the last figures I've seen, that the number of offences have fallen below 10 million, and that was a 9% reduction compared to when records began in 1981. Police numbers have also hit a record level. Well, they did until police services and constabularies started cutting back, 144,000. That, I think, was a success story, not least at neighbourhood levels where a lot of people actually measure the effectiveness and efficiency of policing. If they know their police officer, if they can get hold of that person when they want that person, if that person will take an interest in their problems, even if they're not actually policing problems, that really does mean something to communities. And I pay tribute to the officers in my neighbourhood beat teams in the constituency I represent, the way they'll come to all residents' meetings, sit there for a couple of hours, take everything that's thrown at them, and still have a rapport with the community. It may not be the most efficient use of policing, but it certainly makes the public feel a lot better. And I've touched on the front-end loading of the cuts over this 4-year period. No, if we could have at least a smoother run at the cutbacks instead of the front-end loading, then I think we police authorities and the police service could do actually a better job on delivering from that, avoid some of the costs that front-end loading will actually make happen, and also perhaps end up with more officers in place than we would have before. Because we'll wait to see how many thousand officers less we're going to have as a result of the budget deficit reduction programme. But our estimates at the Association of Police Authorities is that the move to the elected police commissioner structure will probably cost at least another 700 police officers' jobs, if not more than that, because there's been scant information available in order to try and assess what the cost impact of this will be. So moving forward, I hope that the evidence now being piled up against the proposal for directly elected police commissioners will cause government to think again. I'm certainly talking as often I can to parliamentarians on the Liberal Democrat benches, and I've yet to find any of them actually think it's a good idea. And I do talk to Conservative politicians as well, and I don't find many of them who think it's a good idea either, because it is alien to what we've been used to in this country, putting so much power in the hands of one individual really a serious problem. If you've got a superstar, great, but we don't know what the electoral systems will throw up. We've got the Olympics, we've got the terrorism threat, and that's increasing all the time. We've got the protests at the cuts in public spending. Police service has got more than enough to do, and we in the Association of Police Authorities, through our member police authorities, want to do all we can to help our chief constables and management teams through these very difficult times. Those we understand. What we don't understand, why the government wants to make it so much more difficult. Well, when I say I don't understand, I really do think there's no evidence to this. I do think it's a whim on the part of the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary and the Police Minister have been told to push this through. Because if you look at the problems facing the coalition government, would you actually make this proposal an early part of your legislative programme? I wouldn't. I put it off sometime because at the end of the day, the evidence is not there. It's going to make a real difference. So, in conclusion, Chairman, the words I tend to use to sum up this, I think the public want constables, they don't want commissioners. And that's a message I think we need to get through. Governments do change their minds. I mean, I can well remember going to a meeting in September 2005 when Charles Clarke was Home Secretary, telling us about how he was going to merge all the police authorities and police service up and down the country to reduce it from the 43 to about 26 by Christmas. Well, the good Charles wasn't Home Secretary much longer, and he's not even an MP now. So, governments can be made to change their minds, particularly if you put forward the evidence, and particularly if public opinion is not going with them. I'm pretty sure public opinion will not go with the government on this issue. Having said that, it's not something which captures the public's imagination. What will capture the public's imagination and concern is if there are far less police officers visible in their communities. So, as I said, it's the wrong policy at the wrong time. A ministerial friend of mine actually described it as bonkers. I hope he'll think about that later on when the votes have to be taken. And really, we do, all of us have enough to do. We do work well in the tripartite system. We can make it better. The government need to give us breathing space to actually get on and do that job, which will be far much more to their benefit, and indeed trying to push this through Parliament against an unwilling House of Commons, I think, and an unwilling House of Lords. Whether those unwillingness will actually vote the measures down, I don't know. That's too early to say, but I will certainly do my part in trying to help bring about that situation. Many thanks for listening.